hello. It's me, Josh Hunter. I'm here on the planet Earth, and when I go over this again, you guys really don't understand that you are not to be asking me for anything. Don't ask me for cigarettes. Don't ask me for a lighter. Don't ask me for drugs. Don't ask me for a phone. Don't ask me for a battery. There's nothing that anyone should be asking me for. Do you understand? Because people keep coming up to me like, and they're not. I don't understand. I guess we're not on the same page. I guess I assumed that we were all on the same page, and apparently we're not. So I'm going to. So my reaction to this is I'm going to tell you some jokes that I used to have. I haven't told these jokes in a while, so when I say joke, I would like to remove the connotation of entertainment. I simply I have these humor-related acknowledgments that I'd like to bring up. So my first original joke that I ever told, it's called the pasta joke. I haven't told it in a while, but it's I was talking online with this girl, and she needed a recipe for pasta, and so I told this joke as a response. Anyway, so here's how the joke goes. Remember, it's a recipe for pasta. So let's alright, there's a couple of guys there's a couple of guys, they're like gangster guys, I guess. I don't know, like maybe and they're in their house or whatever, and they're serving dinner, right? You know, and they're having a meeting or something, they're serving dinner, and so the guy, one of them, he goes to the kitchen to to get the food, to bring it back out on the table. He goes back to the kitchen, gets the food, and they're all ready to sit down. And the guy comes up and he says, "Hey, this dish needs a little more salt." The guy looks around the table. He's like, "Oh, there's no salt." So he goes back into the kitchen, and then he comes back and puts the salt on the table, and then he uses the salt, and the guy sees he has the salt, but he didn't, you know. So he says, "Hey, pasta salt already." That's original. I came up with that about maybe 17 years ago, 16. No, 18 years ago. 18 years ago I came up with that. Okay. Here's another one. And this was improved upon by someone who, you know, at the time I was a little upset. I wasn't upset, but that they, that they improved upon my joke. I had too much pride at that time. Now, no pride whatsoever. I hope this is not offensive. I am not calling this category of people. I'm not connecting the two. It's simply, I use the word. All right. So it's like, how do? So all right. The question is, all right, look. I'm not trying to be offensive. Literally, all right. So sometimes there are like homosexual animals, if I'm not mistaken. So I do not want there to be the connotation that I'm saying that these people are, you know, lower than what they ought to be. So anyway, I don't know. I guess, well, if someone gets upset, that's their fault, because I did my best. All right. So how do lesbian dogs get pregnant? Bark official insemination. Huh? Now that's what I said originally. But then I met this guy at this place. I don't know if they still like do things here. It's called No Future Cafe. It's in Pasadena. It's like a church by day, and then sometimes on the weekends it's like a place for like. And actually, you know, I remember previously I had mentioned that my friends never invited me to concerts. I did go with these guys to No Future Cafe. I don't know if that sounds like, if that's like a concert or whatever. Anyway, so I'm in front of this place called No Future Cafe, and I told this joke to this guy, and I don't know what his station in life is right now. I don't know what he's about or whatever, or what his life is like. Things may have gone really bad. He might be dead, and if so, I mean no disrespect. But I gotta say his name. His name was Pat Blong. And I told him this joke, and he's like, you know, you shouldn't say bark official insemination. You should say ARF official insemination. And I thought, I got upset because it was so obvious. It was so obvious. Like, obviously I should say ARF instead of, you know, bark. But I stuck to my guns for a while, and I said bark for a long time. But I said, you know what, I got to give him his dues. So it's ARF official. So those are two original jokes that I came up with. This next one I got from the Muppets.com website, also about 18 years ago. Fozzie Bear. What's Beethoven's favorite fruit? Banana. Would you like to still keep asking me for things? Would you like to still keep asking me for things that you can get yourself, but you won't? What do you think the end result is if you constantly ask people for things that you can get yourself? What do you think's gonna happen? Think about it. What do you think's gonna happen? Let's see if I have any more jokes. Those are the only ones I normally. I mean, I never really set out to tell. Oh, yeah, no, I can't tell that one. So, I'm only saying this because I was just walking by. Okay, so because usually what happens is, even though nobody has been watching this, like, I'll record this, and then everywhere I go, like, people will respond as if they'd been watching this. Like, people will talk to me as if they saw this video, and they didn't. So I figure, okay, well then I'll just say whatever it is in my video, and then people will respond. But they haven't been, so I guess this isn't the remote control that I thought I was. Maybe I should keep watching the movie Click and see if that helps me out. But, you know, I made this video about people not asking me for things, and this guy says, you want to buy a phone? People come up to me, are those solar panels phones? Are they phones? Guy came up to me the other day. He's like, "Oh man, what are those solar panels?" And I said, "Why did you ask if you knew what it was?" And the same thing keeps people. Do you want to sell a phone? Do you want to buy a phone? Do I look like I want to buy a phone? I have a phone in my fucking hand. So, someone came up to me. They asked me for a phone, and I was walking by earlier today, and this guy, like, he was yelling at this couple to give him a cigarette. He said, "If you don't give me that cigarette, I'm just gonna take it." And I thought, this is fucking absurd. And I went up to him, and I, you know, calmly, I'm like, "All right." And the guy gave him the cigarette, and I'm like, "All right, now talk to me. You want to ask him for something? Maybe I need something from you. Okay, you don't know what I'm dealing." All right, I didn't say it like that. I don't go in tough. I don't go in like a tough guy. I just, you know. But I had a little conversation with him. I said, "You're not going to forget today." And this is what I not always do, but I can't threaten, but I plan to suggest, well, it's not, well, I guess it's a suggestion, and if they're afraid, I'll let their fear just kind of consume them. But if they're not afraid, they've got nothing to worry about. But usually what I say is, you're not going to forget today. I guarantee it. Usually I try to say, remember this. Remember when you felt like this. Remember when you treated someone like this. And when it happens to you, I don't want you to forget this moment. Because sometimes these people, they have no sense of how much pain they can be in. That's what I'm sensing most about the people of Earth, or the people who live here anyway. That you guys have no sense of how, there's like, you think there's a limit. Like I see these tough guys, and they're like, you know, they're rude and impolite and various things, and they don't care. And this is, you know, this is not like a. I mean, I'm applying this to all people. Okay, I'm not singling out any specific group. Like the people who reside on the earth, I've not noticed any difference amongst the races. They all do it in some form or another. So I mean, you're all a bunch of assholes to me anyway. Maybe not all of you. Well, how would I know? Oh, because I only deal with the public. Anyway. So what happens is, like, you know, these people walk around and they are not. It's like they remember like the most they've ever hurt, and they somehow think like that's as bad as it'll get. Like you have like the worst you've ever felt, and you're like, well, it couldn't get worse than that. And somewhere there's something telling you that it'll never get worse than that. And I gotta wonder, like, how can you think like that? How can you think that that's the worst it's gonna get? You know, where do you think you are? Like, these attitudes are so poor. Politeness, kindness. What was it in Kingsman that he said? Manners maketh man. Okay, you do not understand the value of being a polite person. It will help you. That's what our society is based upon. People working together. You cannot build a building unless people work together. You cannot, you know, protect that building unless people work together. All of these things. And so I'm just going to keep saying it until I figure out the way, until I figure, the thing that seems most pressing upon me right now is that I want to make sure that I have a sign or a signal which is clear as fucking day that you should never ask me for a cigarette, that you should never ask me for a lighter, that you should never ask me for drugs. And I want to do whatever I can to make sure that I can communicate this clearly, accurately, that when people come up to me, they know for sure I will never ask this man for a cigarette. I will never ask him for a lighter. I will never ask him for drugs. I will never ask him for money. I will never ask him for something that I can get myself. This is what I want. This is what I want. People always ask me, what do you want? What do you want? I want people to stop asking me questions that do not need to be asked. I want something to make sure, a guarantee, that you do not ask me for something that you can get me, that you do not ask me for something that you can get yourself, that you do not ask a useless question. We're already in a severe deficit here, people. How much money do you think is going to be spent here? We live in the fucking lap of luxury. Who do you think is paying for it? And you just keep asking. So, I want it here on the record. I don't want to be asked for things that don't need to be asked for. And I'll do what it takes to shut this down, to shut it out. You guys think I can be very loud if I need to be. I am normally a very quiet man, but if I need to make a great noise, that's no problem to me. I dealt with plenty of noise. So, we're gonna play ball, we're gonna be on board. What's going on? You gonna stop being an idiot? You gonna stop asking me for questions, or are you gonna keep being as dumb as you can possibly be? This is not a criticism. I am concerned for your future, which, if I'm not mistaken, is connected to my future. But if I am wrong, then your future will only belong to you, and I will not get the lessons that you have to get. Do we understand each other? Do we understand that we are perhaps not on the same page, and that we should be thinking clearly and reasonably and rationally?